Hello everyone and welcome to this Facebook Live broadcast for Understanding Language, our course on Future Learn. I'm Sally and I'm here today with Josh and Kate from the course. Hi.
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 So we're here for the next 30 minutes or so to talk about the course and to talk about teaching and learning languages. So if you have any questions, please post them here on Facebook. And Kate and Josh will try to answer as many questions as possible in the next 30 minutes. If you don't have a question, then just say hi and tell us where you are in the world. I'm in Barcelona. Where are you two?
I'm in Southampton in the UK.
Great. And Josh?
I'm quite near Bilbao in the Basque Country, out on the coast, and it's a lovely day here. I hope it is for everyone else too.
Okay, fantastic. So before we take your live questions, let's talk a little bit about the course. Kate, could you tell us what the course is about, who it's for, how people can sign up for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a free course offered on Future Learn by the British Council and the University of Southampton, and it's called Understanding Language, Learning and Teaching, and it's a 4-week course. And what we do in the course is we introduce some ideas about language learning and teaching, and really we're introducing ideas that we cover on a master's program that we offer in English language teaching. And so we have a week about language learning, we have a week about language teaching, and then language learning, teaching and technology, and then a week where we talk about global Englishes and English as a lingua franca and how English is used in the world. So it's a short course that's designed to introduce a range of really fascinating and interesting ideas, and obviously introduce a lot of discussion about language, teaching and learning. And it's a free course that anyone can join through Future Learn.
Okay, brilliant. And I think there's our colleague Tina, who's working in the background here on Facebook, will put a link that you can click on to join the course.
Please join us.
Yeah. Josh, tell us what's been happening this week on the course, please.
Well, there's lots of fabulous conversation between learners from all over the world, just like there are here. I can see we've got people from London, Slovakia, Turkey, Morocco, Tokyo. Wow, this is amazing. And it's amazing on the course because there are people sharing ideas from all of these places, Albania, Philippines. There's people from the Philippines as well. So we've been talking in the first week about language and what language is and how we use it. And in the second week about key factors in language learning and language teaching, largely motivation and engagement, how to make lessons meaningful, how to engage learners, etc. And this week we're trying to look at how to enable that in online contexts like we are now, either live or asynchronous and through the conversations on the platform. So I think that's really about thinking about all the different ways we can interact online and how we can exploit those for learning. So yeah, it's a great course. Come and join us there. Even more, wow, Poland.
No,
wow, lots of people.
It's incredible. I've just been, as you've been talking, Josh, I've just made this list of countries to say hello to. So I'm just going to read it out because we've got such an incredible global audience. So we've got Indonesia, Nepal, someone in London, Pakistan, Turkey, Ukraine, Slovakia, Rwanda, Morocco, Tokyo, Egypt, Albania, Bangladesh, Australia, Djibouti, India, Spain. So hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Amazing. And please post your questions as well. Oh, Russia as well. Okay, so Kurdistan. Okay, I'll stop listing countries and I'll put in a second. I'm going to put a question on the screen.
Okay, just to say, we have many thousands on the course, at least 5,000 taking the course, so lots of people around the world.
Brilliant. So here's a question from the course, actually, which is from Mehmet, who says, which theory will be more effective for online learning? Who'd like to take that one? Josh?
Well, I only want to link to the course because I think that is part of what happens in week 3. Paul Braddock, who's one of the British Council teacher educators, introduces ideas about connectionist learning, learning together from one another by making connections. And of course, the fact that there are so many people from all over the world in very, very different teaching contexts and learning contexts sharing ideas allows us to empathize with one another, to make global connections, to understand very different contexts. So I think that is one theoretical perspective. I'm not sure what Kate will say. You must have made the decisions about designing the course that is worth bearing in mind. And I think also we build on what we've been looking at in the first couple of weeks, and really importantly in the second week, how to create inclusive communities of practice learning for collaborative learning, where everyone feels not only able but also wants to contribute to the conversation and help create and refine knowledge together. So I think that that kind of theoretical perspective on learning, on the importance of collaboration, on how to facilitate that, are the kinds of things that we try to build on in this week, really. Kate?
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I mean, I think we have to, when we think about effective online learning, I think we're thinking about effective learning. And I think in language learning, it's really useful to go back to second language acquisition theories and just think about what do we know about good language learning? And that picks up a lot of the words that Josh has already mentioned. So collaboration, social spaces, opportunities for practice, opportunities to learn from others, opportunities also to go away and be on our own and think about things and learn things, learn words, learn structures if we want to do that. So I think we go back and we think about those theories and how they relate to the online space. So in the online space, how can we facilitate that productive interaction between people? How can we get that social space working? How can we give those opportunities that come about from the theories we know that make for good language learning? How can we let learners or allow learners to kind of produce meaningful language? And we talked already about task-based learning. So how can we use technology to make those tasks happen in the right way, become meaningful, and allow for those opportunities to happen? And certainly connectivism, which we deal with this week, is a theory that's come about more recently within the last 20 years, responding to how we learn in a digital age. That's quite a radical theory again, and I think there's a lot of discussion we can have around how useful that is for language learning. It relies very much more, I think, on the language learner themselves to make those connections for their own learning. And that can be, I think, quite difficult, certainly.
Okay, great. Yes, Josh.
I just wanted to throw in, I think that apart from the kind of social collaborative learning theories, the ecological perspectives on learning are very important here. And I would refer to Professor Rose Luckin's Ecology of Resources, and thinking about how we can make use of the online technologies and resources to create the kinds of interactions that support social collaborative learning. So that really looks at the idea of affordances. What opportunities do these tools give us, and how do they constrain our interactions? And design thinking, how do we design experiences that exploit these affordances or opportunities for interaction in order to maximize learning? And I think also from the ecological perspective, being remote and stuck sitting down in front of computers makes us think about embodied interaction and makes us think about the value of our classrooms and being in shared physical spaces when we return to them. How do we make use of co-located interaction with the physical real world environment and the outside world environment? But that might also point to how do we use virtual environments, virtual reality online. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think we could talk a lot about this question. It's a great question. I mean, I think that also universal design for learning, thinking about inclusivity and how we are engaging learners. I think we might come on to that a little bit later, right? But, how do we make those spaces inclusive for all kinds of learner preferences? Okay,
brilliant, fantastic answers there. And that was a big question, wasn't it, with big answers. I'm going to actually take a live question now. I know we've got a lot of prepared questions, but we've got so many comments and questions coming in. So I'm going to put this question from Suleka, who says, how to encourage students for online classes, especially those who are less willing?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, and I think it's something we're all thinking about at the moment, as we're all under lockdown, and we're having to kind of study and work online. I think we have to think about learning design, and we have to think about the activities that we're creating. I think it helps to create a variety of types of activities so that we are creating different kinds of ways for learners to approach content and to engage with content. And that might be a variety in terms of the kinds of, you might say, input, so video kind of input, or reading tasks, writing tasks, but also tasks that perhaps take a short amount of time to engage with, and are perhaps fun. I mean, I think of this in terms of our MOOC design. So the course we're talking about, understanding language, we have tasks in there which are enjoyable and fun to engage with, like marking your location on a map. Very simple to engage with, very motivating, and draws people in. It encourages to build community. And I think with online course design, having a real mixture and variety of those kind of tasks can be motivating and draw perhaps less willing learners in, because they can see something they can tangibly and achievably engage with in quite a short period of time. And then that draws them in a bit further.
Brilliant. Josh, anything to add?
Yeah, of course, lots. I totally agree with what Kate is saying. I think that it also helps us to think about participation in our face-to-face classes, and as compared to online. I mean, I think I've noticed a lot of teachers saying to me, well, suddenly some of my students who were quiet and reluctant to participate in face-to-face classes have come alive in a online context or in written forums, etc., and participating more. So I think that does also happen from time to time. Something's changed in my screen, so I'm not sure whether people are hearing me or not. Anyway, I also think that
we can hear you.
Yeah, we can design tasks, as Kate says, that allow people to express themselves, to show their identity. And online, you can do interesting things as well, allow people to be less exposed, to have kind of more, not exactly anonymous, but less kind of pressured interactions with their colleagues. So I think it is a problem, participation online. And we see it on MOOCs as well, on courses like this. You know, I can see all the people who are making comments, but I know nothing about the people who are just reading and feeling unable to participate. And I'd love to help them participate. So it is a problem online, but I think it's also a problem in face-to-face classes. Genuinely engaging with your students, understanding what their needs, ambitions, wants are, as well as you can, is one way to engage students. Giving them easy tasks to engage with that allow themselves to express themselves and be creative. As Kate said, these are all good ways of getting people to engage. But I'd love to hear from participants in the chat whether they have noticed differences in participation between students in face-to-face and online classes, because, you know, sometimes it works the other way, I think.
Yeah, and can I just pick up on that idea as well? I think we often set the bar very high for us with online classes. I mean, often with a face-to-face class, you will have, as Josh has said, you know, you're going to have students participating to different degrees and levels, because people's concentration waxes and wanes, doesn't it? And that's true in the online space as well. And so I think we have to be aware of that and not try and expect too much of ourselves from as teachers, but also from the course, and also to value those lurkers that are sitting there and enjoying what's happening, enjoying the content, enjoying the discussion, but perhaps not visibly participating, but still getting a lot out of it. And so I think our expectations need to be altered a little bit with online, and the standards, that the expectations we set ourselves, but also our expectation of what quality is. I mean, in any course, I think you need to monitor who's doing what to make sure that someone's not falling behind or disappearing completely. But at the same time, that doesn't mean for them it's not a meaningful learning experience. And I think we just need to be a little bit fair to ourselves over that as course designers.
Okay, great. We've got loads of questions, so I'm going to put another one about, this one is from Srinivas about assessment, which is something we were talking about before. And it's a common question that's coming up by the side here, I can see. So my students are attending online classes, but they're not willing to do online assessment. What can I do? So
yeah, we were having a discussion about this and how it's a difficult one. It's a good question, Srinivas, and there are no easy answers, I think. I mean, just to say something, some of the experience we have at the university, Southampton. So online assessment, obviously, it's very complicated, and obviously it depends if it's a high stakes assessment, so if it's a summative or a formative assessment, and how important it is to the students and to the course, and so on. I mean, I think you need to, obviously, if the students are not willing to do an online assessment, then it needs to be clear why they're doing the assessment and what the value of it is. And that needs to be clearly explained and understood within the structure of the course design. I think, and then obviously they need to, make a choice about whether they're engaging with the assessment. Generally speaking, I think online assessment is a thorny one, and I think in languages, we try to find the best way to make that assessment part of the design, and certainly through, for example, something like one of our pre-session or English language and study skills courses, what we do is we think of the assessment within the whole design of the course. And so all of the activities build towards the assessment. So it's completely integrated and makes sense in terms of how people will have understood the content going along. And that helps also in understanding that the assessment is valid, that we know who the people are taking the assessment, and we know that because we recognise the achievements they've made along the way towards the assessment.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what Kate is saying. I think essential, what is the point of this assessment? Why are we doing it? Why are we doing it like this? I think that online and having to cope with the fact that a lot of sort of traditional exam style assessments are very, very difficult to conduct in fair ways online, make us question why we're doing this assessment and how we're doing it anyway. How many real world communicative tasks can you not cheat in? I can use Google Translate when I want to try to speak to someone in the real world or whatever it is. So I think we need to think far more carefully about what we're assessing, why we're assessing it that way. And also, someone else mentioned peer assessment, self-assessment, value peer self-assessment, value self-assessment, include in our evaluations of students, how good is this student at evaluating their own performance? That's valuable information for any employer or any academic institution, etc. So I haven't got answers, but I do think that this is a really good push to reconsider assessment, what it's for, certification, and to embrace kind of more formative methods anyway.
Yeah, I think Gabriella's comments come on the screen there, and I love that idea. So Gabriella's saying assessment isn't so important, especially at the moment. You want them to improve their English and be happy. And just to reinforce that, I mean, yes, I mean, at times, why do you need to assess? If you have built in the right processes and for learning and students are enjoying that, then that is its own reward. Assessments often lead to other things, don't they? Jobs, applications to universities and so on. So they're obviously benchmarks in terms of that progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a lovely comment. Okay, I've got so many questions here, they're whizzing past me. I'm going to put this question up from Parth now. How to become a better teacher while teaching online?
Right, I saw that one, and I think that is exactly what we're all doing now. The thing is to be challenged and see, wow, this is a challenge. How do I do that? To consult with your peers, with the research, to try out ideas, share them. That's what happens on these online courses, and this is something that really wouldn't have been possible to do in such an agile and inclusive way before these kinds of technologies were available. I mean, I could not have imagined being able to talk to and share ideas with educators from everywhere in the world with diverse experiences, valuing all that diversity. Let's voice the challenges that we face, think about how to deal with them and ask for input from others and look to the research for what hasn't been done. Share potential solutions, being sensitive to our contexts and settings, which are all different, and is what we personally know best, and our learners do. So we need to find out what they think, and try and create together an emerging best practice for online and face-to-face teaching and learning languages.
Can I just?
Yeah, I completely agree. Nothing to add. I think reflection on your practice. I completely agree. Yeah.
What I was going to add, if it's okay, is just to mention a couple of other courses that we've got running very soon for teacher development. And our colleague Tina will put the links to those here. So there's one called Teaching for Success. I forgot the full title, Learners and Teaching, which is starting soon. And then we've got another one called Becoming a Better Teacher, which are similar courses in the Future Learn courses similar to this one. We'll put links to those. Okay, now I've lost my question. Okay.
Well, while you look for it, we can comment on. I've just seen some great comments. The most efficient way of learning isn't the same for everyone. Absolutely, diversity, handling individuals, getting to know our students. Have you got another question yet? I mean, otherwise,
this one. This is going back to assessment again and speaking skills, because I think that's something that's come up quite a lot with online. So maybe you can talk a little bit about this. Can online assessment improve speaking skills, and sort of how do we improve speaking skills online? Question from Ranis, thank you.
Can I?
Josh, you've got your hand up, very good student, yeah.
So, for example, I think that the British Council has an IELTS speaking preparation Future Learn MOOC, and that is full of suggestions on how to prepare and improve speaking with practice online. I mean, obviously you can, I'm getting a lot of speaking practice at the moment and some feedback in terms of nods or shakes or comments here. So I think you need opportunities to practice, but it's good to become more reflective about your speaking, to share your speaking with others and get their reflections. You can do that through live sessions or through recordings if you're happy with recording your voice and sharing it. I think you can use technology and voice recognition and interaction to some extent to do a kind of controlled practice, but I'm not suggesting you have conversations with AI, for example, more about more controlled practice. I think there are lots of ways that we can try and get extra speaking practice, but basically for good speaking, my feeling is you need to listen and hear a lot, and there's loads of ways that technology can help you do that, and you need to have opportunities to practice in a more controlled, thoughtful way, and to practice in a more natural way. And certainly there are ways technologies can help with that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I would seek out some of the apps you can find online, whereby you can find language conversation partners. Obviously, there's a great range of online one-to-one kind of language teaching, which allows the facilitation of the kind of things Josh has been talking about. So that kind of controlled practice. But also, I think the online space as it is offers these opportunities for lots of free practice. And absolutely, doing lots of listening and then doing lots of production of different kinds can help you feel your way and obviously allow you to reflect through listening to others and what you're able to produce and to engage with. I think you do have to be a little bit proactive about it, certainly, but that's a good thing.
Okay. Lovely. This isn't exactly a question from Paula, but she's saying we should tune into our students' needs in the online environment and adjust accordingly. But I've kind of got a question. I think that's great, but how do we tune into our students' needs online? Yeah,
I mean, it's a great comment there. We absolutely do need to do that. And we need to be, I think, proactive as teachers to do that and try and find feedback in different ways. And certainly it's something I'm finding at the moment. Obviously, I've had to move to completely teaching online and delivery online from a face-to-face kind of situation. I think we need to, first of all, be considerate in our learning design. And that can mean obviously reflecting, but also testing things with students. But I think particularly it's finding mechanisms for students to feed back to us. And that can be a very explicit question. You can ask your students, how's it going? How are you finding this particular tool or particular approach? So there can be that kind of way of finding out information. Also, I think we need to be a little bit proactive about how we're monitoring activity and perhaps chasing down activity that's perhaps not happening in the way we want. So if we design a task that no one engages with, and no one tells us why they're not, we then need to go and chase and find that answer. So we do need to have mechanisms in place to get students to feed back to us, and then seriously reflect on those things and make the changes, be prepared to make sometimes quite radical changes as well.
Mm-hmm. Can I just say that Paula has asked lots of interesting questions on the course and made interesting observations there. I think that in a lot of our courses, the British Council ones, How to Teach a Great Lesson, etc., we start with the idea of trying to understand your students. Traditionally in a lot of English language teaching, you would do a needs analysis anyway early on in the course. I think personally, I like to engage my students as soon as I feel confident, as soon as I have the right atmosphere, in understanding, well, these are the aims that I'm proposing. How do they match to your aims and ambitions? Should we be adding anything? How can we get to this point? Try to involve them in designing the course and the activities and listen to them. That's worked very well for me as well with transition to online students that I've had in face-to-face situations who are now online, teens. Let's talk about what's different here and whether it's good to have the camera on or off. I will try to sit back and listen to what they're saying. So maybe the first couple of students that arrive, while we're waiting for the next ones to arrive, I'll prompt them with a couple of questions and say to them, okay, for the next lot to arrive, you've got to ask them questions in the same vein and keep them talking for as long as possible. That's your task. I'm just sitting back and listening. And it will be things like, so how do you feel about learning online compared to being in the school? Does that work better for you, worse for you? Interesting comments. Some of my students say, I'm less distracted working from home. Others say, I'm more distracted. I find it harder to control myself. So there is variety, but you get the insights into how they feel and into their needs from listening in on that kind of conversation.
Which is kind of what you do in the classroom as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Completely. I think sort of listen to yourself as well. I mean, obviously, as a designer of MOOCs, I often meet people who rather guiltily say to me, oh, I've signed up for a MOOC, but I've never done it. Or I started week 1 and then I dropped out. And they're always rather guilty about it. But for me, it's very interesting and valuable feedback to reflect on that and to try and understand where they're coming from. Why did they sign up? They're sufficiently interested to sign up, but why did they not come and do the course? And then why did they drop out afterwards? There's something I need to learn there about how I developed that course. And so, and also feeling about myself, because often I've joined courses and not turned up. So I need to reflect on myself and why that is the case.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's a great, I just noticed something, but I think that this is helpful.
Go on.
Someone's asking, I just missed the name, I won't be able to pronounce it, Suleja Verma, whether the British Council have any tools for designing Zoom classes, etc. I'm not sure that we do, but what we do have on the Teaching English webpage are a lot of resources to help teachers learn about teaching online. That's on a dedicated kind of emergency teaching page. And there are several lesson plans which have been adapted for online teaching, which can be done using Zoom or some other web conferencing thing. So there are some resources. We're doing our best to try and help. I hope it's being useful. Okay,
brilliant. And we've run out of time, basically. There's so many questions, and I know that you would have brilliant answers for these questions. There's loads of questions about people talking about Zoom, and that's kind of very specific. And some other people asking about community online. I mean, on our MOOCs, there's definitely a feel of community, and that's online. So I'm sure.
I mean, so just to say, certainly in the design of the particular course, Understanding Language, it's designed very much from the outset to foster community and to build community, because we very much understand the MOOC is a community of practice. We're learning from each other. I think Josh said earlier on in this session, the educators on the course and the administrators, if you like, of the course, we love learning too. We want to be part of that discussion and learn from each other. And so it's very much a part of those courses to say these are welcoming. We want to hear what you have to say. We all want to learn from each other, and we're hungry for that.
And we all want to improve. I mean, I've just noticed a lovely comment about Kate's rhythmic speaking, awesome speaking, and you know, being online and being yourself and hearing other people's comments. You think about, well, am I presenting myself? Can I learn to speak more emotionally and and I think I found that something that I really need to reflect on and improve too. So you know, there's things we need to prompt ourselves to. How can I get better? What am I?
Yeah.
What mistakes am I making? And can I celebrate these as opportunities to learn?
Exactly.
Yeah, we can all improve.
And in answer to Ursula's question, can we add a link? Yes, we'll add links. We'll add links to everything that we can that Josh and Kate have talked about here. Okay, final comment from Marina. We're all learning from each other. It's true. Can you see that comment from Marina? It's true, isn't it?
I completely agree, Marina. Yeah, we're all learning from each other, and it's an absolute joy, really, isn't it? I mean, you know, to hear about everyone's experience. I think because with a global kind of cohort on the course, everyone's experience is different. The context is different, and it just makes you reflect as a teacher. What would I cope in that situation? What would I do? What do I learn from my own situation from seeing something that's quite different? But actually, what are the bits that can make me improve what I do in the classroom? It's lovely.
Okay, yeah. Brilliant. Josh, what were you going to say? Because I was going to ask for final comments now, and then we're going to finish.
No, well, I pick up on Marina's thing. We're learning from one another. It's true, of course, and I think we always learn from one another. But what technology has enabled in this kind of course is to learn from one another globally with such a diverse community. You know, how enriching can that be to understand and get insights into other people's lives? And I think in a sense that leads on to the final week 4, which we haven't got to yet, which is English and the future of English and global Englishes, and kind of disowning English as mine, ours, cultural, and owning it globally and making it what we want it to be. So I'm kind of I'm a hopeless optimist, but I'm hoping we can learn and change things for the better, basically.
Brilliant. And here's a comment from Holly, who's on the course, who's loving the course. So thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly. That's great.
And Kate, a final comment from you, and then we'll say goodbye.
I feel like Josh's should be the final comment. What a lovely space to end. Yeah, I think join the course if you haven't, and continue enjoying the course. As Josh said, week 4, we're going to talk about global English, who owns English, and very much that idea that the learners of English and the users of English, we all own it. And what does that mean for us? Let's keep learning from each other, sharing ideas, and moving forward in this wonderful online space that we make so vibrant and so lovely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Kate. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you.
For joining us.
All your questions.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.